This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No! Vaughn into the windup and his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yes! She is gone! I don't believe what I just saw. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans, to the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find great podcast and blog content. It's Thursday, July 20th. We're streaming live, and the Cardinals are currently handing it to the Cubs. Anyway, you can follow us on social media at Team of Rivals Pod, or find us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. For those of you who prefer to watch the show, well, you're doing it right now. And if you're not and you're listening to it, also know that we post on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. So hit the like and subscribe button to be sure that notifications are on so that you know anytime we post new content. Cubs are getting their asses handed to them in the first game of this 4-game set. We're, 11, 12 days away from the trade deadline. And really, honestly, all that I want to talk about is, Elliot, have you been to Wrigley Field since they installed the new LED lights?
I have not.
It is really bright. I was at the game finally, my first game in a couple of years on Monday night. It is really bright on the field now. It's unusual. I'm not used to it. I'm used to it being dark. Wrigley Field now actually looks like a professional baseball field if you go to a night game. Anyway, joining us for this week's show, I just referred to him. He's on camera now. He's here. He's permanent. He's definitely occasional. He's a guest host, Elliot Dewey. And on the ones and twos, co-founder of TOR and number 125 in the 2022 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall. Gentlemen, how you doing? 2 weeks from now, are these teams going to look the same?
No, absolutely not.
No. But I tell you, did the Devil Magic return in just enough time to allow the Cardinals team to do just enough to where the front office does nothing? That's the concern and worry.
That's not how Devil Magic works, Ron.
Well, no, the Devil Magic is they're going to start winning weirdly, right?
And end up winning the division. They're
end
not
up
going to
winning
make
the
any
division.
moves.
Not going to make any moves. That's worry
and
number
that's
one.
That's going to justify Mozeliak not getting any pitching in the offseason yet again.
Yeah, right. It's just a hamster wheel. It really is.
Nice.
It's a hamster wheel.
Elliot, obviously you said no. You weren't here last week, so you didn't get to expound, and I know because you've told us as such. You don't listen to the podcast, so join in. What do you think happens in the next 12 days when it comes to the Cubs?
I have a feeling that if things keep going the way that it is, where they really aren't making any headway. I mean, they got to 5 games under 500, and they've just kind of been playing 500 ball. And I have a feeling with no changes of gaining any ground that they're going to try to sell off a few key valuable pieces, and they're going to extend this rebuild. I honestly think now Stroman goes, even though that he didn't have a great game tonight. And then I unfortunately think Belly's gone. I think that both those two pieces are going to be the big ones where they're going to try and get something. I don't know what. I mean, at this point, we need a third baseman and a first baseman. I mean, you cannot be serious about winning and run Trey Mancini out at fucking first base every goddamn game. I mean, it is so maddening. It's like being a Cardinals fan and knowing that you need pitching. We know that Mancini isn't the fucking answer, and I don't understand. I don't care if you bring up Joe Schmo from AAA or AA. Those are more valuable at bats than putting Trey Mancini out there at first base. And Wisdom being at third, I think this thing is finally over.
What?
You know,
you don't believe in the stash?
I don't fucking care.
Hey, he just took one off the noggin, man. Show that man some respect.
Injury.
He took one off the noggin and walked down to first base pissed off. The trainer right now is trying to check on him, and he's just pissed. He wouldn't stop walking to first.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Right in the back of the ear.
Honestly, I'd rather see somebody like Jake Slaughter up getting valuable at-bats and getting some experience and playing third base. I mean, I know he's not, I don't think he's any worse than what we've been running out there at third base between what we had with Madrigal and Wisdom. I mean, right now with Wisdom, I mean, you're going to get one of two things. You're going to get a strikeout, which is probably 75% of his at bats, or if he connects, he'll get a home run. Which there was a lot of at bats in between his last couple home runs, and a whole lot of fucking strikeouts.
I got to tell you, I was at the game Monday night. Oh my God, that home run he hit.
Oh, he crushed it.
Oh. Anyway,
but when was the last time he had hit a home run before that?
No, I know. So wait, so you're saying you don't want Nick Madrigal, unarguably our best defensive third baseman this year, manning the hot corner? You don't have faith in the Nick Madrigal experience?
Every time he takes a grounder at third base, I'm always questioning whether or not he can get it over to first.
Well, that's why he runs to the pitcher's mound to throw it.
He's got a crow hop just to get it over there.
Oh, no. I forget who it was, but they did a little dive on him. He doesn't crow hop. He runs.
Yes.
He runs towards the base to make his throws. It's not even a joke.
No. So,
Ron, what's it like having a real third baseman? We haven't had one in a while.
I couldn't tell you, I guess. I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen here because Elliot said something that reminded me of kind of a. What's this first baseman you said you would love to see up? I don't. Remind me of that person's name.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'd rather have Matt Mervis come back up, play first base.
That never.
Nice second. Oh, good job, Tommy Edman.
And then Jake Slaughter play third. So I'd rather see those young guys up getting at bats. Those at bats are going to be more valuable than what Trey Mancini's doing and what we're seeing from Patrick Wisdom and Nick Madrigal.
I hope the audio comes through on this, but you were talking about wanting to see that rookie come up, and it reminds me of how Cardinals. This is a scene from a movie that I think this encapsulates how all Cardinals fans feel and react to their rookies and prospects coming up, and I hope to God the sound comes through. Hang on.
Pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, and I pet it, and I massage it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet, and I go.
God, you're sick.
I killed it! I killed my sale! That's when I blow it. That's when people like us have got to forge ahead, Helen.
Okay. It didn't turn out quite like I wanted, but I thought I'd get it in there.
No, I mean, it's a fair comparison. I would say, though, the thing with I think where Cubs fans are right now with Matt Mervis or Jake Slaughter or any of the Cubs prospects is it can't be any worse. And honestly, if
100%.
we need to find out what we have, right? And I'm not saying that these guys are the solution, but we have. Look, Trey Mancini is not the future at first base for the Cubs, and so what they need to do right now, because obviously they're not going to win this division. It's pretty clear. What they need to do right now is they need to find out what they have. And do they need to go out and sign a first baseman or trade for a first baseman next year during the offseason, or do they actually have something? And the only way you're going to find that out is by bringing these guys up, right? Otherwise, we end up being exactly like that. And like you always talk about with Cardinals fans, right? We drool all over these prospects who destroy AAA, but then as soon as they get called up to the majors, they can't hack it. Well, we need to know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And the funny thing is, you know, Mervis came up and he struggled. He had some adjustment. He had a little bit of success. And then he went back down to AAA, and he continued to kill AAA pitching. So he's in that in-between point right now where he's trying to figure out what he's got at the major league level, because he certainly has AAA figured out. So really the only choice is to really just continue to give him at-bats to make sure that either he's going to figure it out or he's not. And maybe once we figure that out, you're either going to cut him and try somebody else or trade him or something. So.
Sucks here.
Ron, am I the only one who's getting the echo on Elliot's audio, or is it? Are you getting that too?
No, I'm not. I'm not on my end. It's just you. It's just your MacBook. That's all. We had a little conversation about that. Yeah. I'll check his audio, but you shouldn't be. I've seen this happen, this cycle with rookies. Call them up, then you barely play them when you do, and then you send them back down. You know, look at kind of what happened to Jordan Rock. Bases are loaded.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, you call them up, you can't play them a day, sit them a day, play them a day, sit them 3 days. Like, those guys got to get consistent at bats, because that's what they were doing down in AAA. You either play them,
Miguel Amaya, right? Because Miguel Amaya is finally getting some run, and he's showing he belongs in the majors. Is he going to be their long-term starter? I don't know.
Cut.
But he's definitely a major league catcher.
Play Amaya, and because he has proven when he's been in the lineup that he can play.
Yeah. And we're not talking about Hall of Fame level production.
Average is not going to play.
Right. It's not realistic to think that every prospect is going to be a Hall of Famer, but it is realistic to hope that they're going to contribute to the team in some way. But you can't find that out if they're stuck in the minor leagues and we're drooling over their 150 WRC plus on AAA pitching. It's not the same as the majors.
And you can't. And sometimes you pull them up and then you throw a veteran out there ahead of them in the everyday lineup, and then they don't get regular playing time. And we've seen it happen time and time again. St. Louis still hasn't figured out their outfield since 2018. So we've kind of seen that happen every year. The good news, though, Tyler O'Neill, boy, thank God he was activated. But that means the Tapera era is over. He was DFA'd earlier today, I believe. That was
Ron. I posted it on Twitter. What was your favorite memory of the Ryan Tepera?
Never saw a single pitch. I didn't. So I don't have much of one. That happened. That escalated quickly.
It was 3 days, right?
Yeah. Well, Mo wasn't lying. Hey, I acquired a pitcher.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You guys can't complain now that that Mo didn't go out and get pitching for the team. He just he found more.
Did he?
Elliot, what the hell did you just do to you?
I think he knocked his iPad over.
Well, that's okay.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
It's probably true. The way we've been trucking along. That is here. Let's just showcase it.
Nice. Elliot, can you hear us?
All right, we'll at least put our faces
if
on.
you're in danger and you need assistance,
did he just have a medical emergency?
Hold up 2 fingers.
He doesn't know how to turn the camera off. He didn't want us to see something, and he just.
I think it's aimed at the wall, isn't it?
It looks
okay,
like
listen, if you're listening to this podcast after the fact, you really do need to go and watch the YouTube feed about 25 minutes in or so.
No.
So that you can get a good
14,
view of
14 minutes and you can try to solve this mystery with us, I guess. Yeah.
It looks like the prep before a hostage video gets shot, where they've already got the camera. Hey, he's back. Are you okay?
He flipped it around.
Eli knocked on the door, so I had to go see what he needed.
Oh, being dad. Okay, well, we'll give you a pass on that one. That's fine.
So I flipped the camera around to the wall. So.
Okay. Well, I was worried.
Nobody's getting their head cut off with a machete.
I was going to say, that, or
it's early. It's only 9:30.
That, or he had a stroke and he's laying on the floor, like coughing for help, and nobody can hear him, and the camera's pointed at the wall. That's what I was worried about. Anyway,
so getting to the point that we were making, and Ron, I think it's a great one that you were saying there, right? You bring up a prospect, but then you have a veteran in front of him. You never figure out what you're going to do, and I wonder how much, like, for example, the Cardinals, I think, put themselves a little bit in this position with catching, right? They refused to find out what they had because they had a Hall of Famer behind the dish. And so they never allowed these kids to find out what it was that they could do because Yachty insisted on catching 120 games a year.
Well, it's just they get such a short leash when they bring them up, though.
Their confidence long-term, right? They haven't become anything, but did they not become anything because they started to think that they were not, legitimate major league starters, and they kind of settled into, I'm a backup.
Yeah, and you hate to. There's one living, breathing example right now in Dylan Carlson for the Cardinals. He's a fourth outfielder. It's basically what they said this week. Once Tyler O'Neill was back up, he was going to be in left field. Newt Barr was going to be in center. Jordan Walker in right. Now, Jordan Walker has hit his way into that everyday lineup. You cannot argue that. But yeah, that's got to be not demoralizing. I think that's a little too extreme, but I think it has to. I think. Definitely hamper the motivation. Every person on that 26-man roster wants to have regular playing time. I mean, they want to have a role. They don't like to kind of go day by day and prep and then nothing. You get asked to do nothing. You prep the next day, asked to do nothing. You might get a spot start here and there. So, yeah, I get it, right? That sucks. But I wonder, too, how many times they've done this and how many players are just kind of never going to recover from it. And they're notorious for this, right? They're doing it with Zach Thompson right now. They wanted to send him down to the minor leagues to stretch him out to get him in starter shape, right? So then they bring him up and he didn't pitch for like a week. And just like, it's just puzzling, how they're going about this. I'm really distracted tonight. I don't know for what reason. I guess I was playing with too many buttons over here, but I've just seen that there's so many examples of how they've handled rookies where you just really question, like, yeah, to your point, Pete, like with a regular role, a little bit less pressure and a lot more patience. Mo loves to use that word. Hey, look, could this have turned out differently for a lot of these guys? Yeah, you have to think so. But
the one argument against that, though, that I would make, if some, a little less pressure and more patience, is at some point you need to know if these guys can handle pressure, because the goal is to get into the playoffs and to be in the ultimate pressure environment. Well,
look what happened to the Pirates this year. Look what happened to the Pirates this year when they're expected to win after getting off to a hot start.
Exactly.
Right. And speaking of patience,
you need to find out if these guys can handle it.
Do I still have that soundbite? I'm wondering.
Look at the Reds now, because it looks like they've found a couple of guys who can handle the pressure.
Right.
I'd ask from our fan base right now is a little bit of patience.
Lies!
So just be patient.
Deception!
I really just ask for people's patience in all of this.
Every day, more lies.
All right, I got it. I didn't take it off the board.
It's fantastic.
I
can't wait to see Ron's remix after the trade deadline, because the deadline is on the 1st. And our next show after that would be the 3rd. So Ron will have 48 hours.
If he doesn't make any more, if he doesn't make any moves, there's going to be one hell of a mix.
A supercut.
We'll just do the one.
It seemed like everyone was screaming for pitching. Fans, media. Why weren't you guys more aggressive in terms of adding pitching?
Well, a couple of reasons. Some of the pitchers that we did chase, we just weren't able to get done.
Lies!
Lies! And then the other was we really wanted to give some of these guys an opportunity.
Deceptions!
O'Neill and Bader were both more valued than them at the time of those deals, and now things have changed. And you're trying to get it right, you really are. But clearly those look like mistakes.
Every day, more lies.
Why laugh?
And
it's like laughing at your own joke.
That stood out to me. O'Neill and Bader were valued more highly at the time.
Yeah.
By whom?
Well, that's part of their problem. That's part of their problem. Yeah.
By you.
Uh-huh.
Don't. He's trying to make it sound like that they were valued by
everybody
outside of baseball.
Yeah.
By everybody.
Right.
By you. You thought that Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill were better than Randy Arozarena, and I suddenly blanked on his name.
Adolis Garcia.
Adolis Garcia, thank you.
Starting left and right fielder for the American League All-Star team. In the home run derby.
Listen.
Both with leaping catches in the first inning.
He really does have a tone to his voice since I've been exposed to it so much over the last couple of weeks. He really has a bored and condescending tone in the way that he talks. Like, why are you asking me? You don't deserve to be in my presence.
Mm-hmm.
Stop questioning my decisions.
That's what the general attitude been from the outside looking in whenever you hear him speak over the last several years. That's how it lands in Cardinals fans' laps. That there's an arrogance about it. Let me put it this way. Maybe this is a term. I don't know what the hell he's doing. Maybe
what the hell happened?
I don't know, but no, I wanted you to stay like that.
That's so weird.
I think, Pete, an aloof superiority. That is how I would put a conversation with John Mozeliak that we've heard recorded lately. So, it's maddening, but you're right. Like, party of one, the Cardinals were valuing Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader over those two other guys. Now, I will say that those two other guys didn't get much of an opportunity, much of a chance to prove what they could do at the time, which is another issue I think a lot of the fans have with how the coaching staff and how the front office handled situation with those two players in the same offseason. They were both jettisoned. You could argue for other needs, but man, internal evaluation of their own talent, their ability to judge their own talent, like objectively, I think it doesn't feel objective at all. I feel like they picked their favorites and that's who they placed their bets on, and they lost on both of them.
And that goes back to the point that we were making, 10 minutes ago? You got to bring the kids up and let them play, especially if you've determined that it's a lost year. I know that you want it to be a friendly environment and a welcoming environment for potential free agent veterans who are thinking about where they want to come. But at some point, you got to cut bait and tell a guy like Trey Mancini, I'm sorry, but we have kids who we need to find out what they're doing. We're not competing. You're still going to get paid. Good luck.
At this point, I feel like, okay, Bellinger can play first. Is he a great center fielder? Yes, but you also have a young kid who is in their pretty much your top 10 MLB prospects that you could maybe bring up, throw him in center field, get him some experience for the remainder of the year, and play Belly at first. You're putting a better product on the field at that point. Jettison Mancini, Belly at first, PCA out in center.
And think about how many times it is that you see a prospect brought up at the end of the year, right? Just so that they can get exposed to it. It's very rare that you see a rookie come up at the beginning of the year, that they break camp with the team. Usually they get a call up in August, September. They get a little bit of exposure to the majors to see what life is like. And then you bring them up for real the next time. It's worked for over a century.
Or you can let them break camp, give them a month, send them back down, tell them they need to hit more fly balls.
Yep.
And they come back and they don't really hit a lot more fly balls, but he was hitting.
At this point, you might as well just put Morel at third base for the rest of the season if you're not going to try and trade for somebody. If you're not going to use Stroman as some trade bait to get a third baseman. I mean, that honestly, that's really their biggest need right now is a power hitting third baseman. I mean, I
thought you had Patrick Wisdom. He was tearing it up.
That weak spot in their lineup is so glaring.
Ron, 2021 Patrick Wisdom is not walking through that door.
I don't know what he was on in 2021, but it was that was, you know, you hear it all the time. That was a blip. That was a blip. You know, the Cubs. What are the Cubs missing? Like I look, of course, I know a lot of the names, but if I look at even the lineup tonight, like what is it missing? And I think Elliot makes a good point. Like you don't have that one big bat in the middle of the lineup that you know is going to be there day in and day out. That's going to extend the lineup a little bit more, produce some kind of fear. I guess Bellinger's looking better, obviously, this year, but he's still not that guy.
He's not hitting for power, but shit, what's he hitting? 310?
Well, he's starting to warm up. He's been on fire the last month.
But you were counting on Seiya Suzuki's bat to be that power bat of like the 20 to 25 home runs, and it's looking more like 10 to 15 maybe home runs in a season. So he's not there. Hap isn't hitting for that power out of left field. Obviously you're not going to get that out of Nico. You're not going to get that out of Dansby Swanson. Your total power hitting from catcher is right now, I think 9 or 10 home runs, like total between Yan Gomes and Yan.
How many teams count on their catchers to provide that?
Any in his career.
You shouldn't really. I mean, yeah, I think like a lot of them, it's defense first, and you know, there's a couple like,
correct. Yeah,
you know, there's always exceptions to that, but you know, generally it's up the middle. You prioritize defense first, and I don't know, maybe that's an old man formula. The way the game's played today, somebody's probably shouting at me that I'm wrong, but you know, defense is always a priority up the middle. You'll take what offense you can get from them, but I know that, yeah, there are weird exceptions. You know, Vod Rodriguez was known as both. You know, Wilson Contreras is known as one-dimensional as far as the catcher goes, right? He's offense first. Yeah, you have that.
Yeah, you know, I think to answer your question, Ron, and this doesn't differ much, I think, from Elliot, but if you look at their injury-free lineup, I think it's the corners is where the Cubs are missing, right? They need
100%.
They need a hitter and somebody who's competent at first base, and then they need a regular third baseman. You know, I wasn't a fan of the extension at the time, and now I'm in retrospect, I think that extending Ian Happ was the biggest mistake that they made this offseason. Because it fooled them into thinking that they had solved the problem. It took a trade piece off the table. I never bought into last year. Look, if we're talking a blip, last year was a blip, because this has been the Ian Happ that we've seen this year has been Ian Happ's track record all along. He's hot for a while, and then he reverts to the mean. Last year, he played out of his mind. He was clearly playing for a contract, and now he's reverted to what Ian Happ is. And now they're locked into him, and it's created a logjam now. And so you're going to see the Cubs trading away minor leaguers because they feel committed to Ian Happ in left field. And it was a huge mistake. Why don't we find out if he can play first base?
Yeah, I don't honestly though, I don't see Jed being as locked in as maybe we would be Theo. I think
but who's going to trade for Ian Happ with 4 years left on his contract?
And that's the thing. You have to find the right buyer who has a need. But
ain't nobody trading for Ian Happ to fill a need.
No,
I'm not buying into anything. Ian Happ should have traded him. Should have traded him to Seattle or Oakland or somewhere where I don't have to see him anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it interesting today that Tommy Birch, who does like a lot of the Iowa Cubs stuff, said that before today's Iowa game, Mervis was taking grounders at third base.
Why? Oh.
I know.
I just hope it was to entertain himself, because he's not a third baseman.
No, he's a first baseman.
Yeah, well, we saw Wilson taking fly balls in May, right?
But he has been Wilson has played a little bit of outfield, little bit of left field. It's the ugliest.
They'd still find a way to blame their year on him.
It is not. Don't you put that kind of a curse on Marcell Ozuna's name. It is not the ugliest left field you've ever seen.
Okay, it's close.
You cannot take that award, that trophy, that honor off of Marcell Ozuna's shoulders.
Okay.
Nothing can.
He's got to earn it. Yeah,
That's
look,
the,
I don't
that's
disagree.
the video
I
clip I should have at Q, and I don't. But
I don't disagree. You got to let the kids play, but experimenting with kids at new positions and in AAA.
Well, and especially at Mervis's age, he's a little bit older. That he's not learning anything new. I mean, you want to take somebody who's like 18, 19, 20, and you want to shift them from short to third or whatever. That's a little bit different than taking somebody who's 26 and taking him from first base and putting him over at third.
Yeah, you're right. The only position changes that you're making at that level are, when you push a pitcher to see if he's going to be able to start and he reaches AAA and it's obvious that he's not going to be a starter, then you convert him to a reliever, but you're not moving somebody across the diamond from first base where he's not making any throws and all of a sudden he has to make the longest throw in the game.
No,
that'd be silly.
How come this
so
isn't?
My fear, and this gets to what Ron's always ripping on Cardinals fans about, is the Cubs now have a prospect logjam, right? Where they're up against the 40-man roster. And I'm afraid not only I couldn't care less much about the guys who they've talked about as being trade targets for the Cubs, right? I mean, it'll suck losing Stroman, but I've pretty much resigned myself to him not coming back. Belly's been a nice pickup, but he's done exactly what you hoped that he would do. My fear is that they're going to have to include some of their fringe minor leaguers and that the same thing is going to happen to them that happened with the Cardinals, right? Guys like Nelson Velasquez,
Palencia.
Yeah, maybe Daniel Palencia. Some of these guys, the Cubs are going to feel like, okay, look, we don't feel like they have a long-term future with us. And so we're going to include them as a sweetener to get something a little bit better back. And then the same thing's going to happen to them that happened with Rosarina and Garcia, and they're going to blow up in another organization.
I'm right there with you. That is kind of like I've been kind of watching that 40-man most of the season, and a lot of discourse with Cubs fans has been just bring up Jake Slaughter. I mean, yeah, he's not the sexiest prospect, but he will fill a need at third base, and then you find out what the kid can do.
Look, of course he's not the sexiest prospect because he's not Bro Neal.
No.
But all right, so Ron, I know you've been quiet and I know you're feeling jealous.
Hang on a second.
Winning streak, 5-game winning streak.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Here we go.
3-2 pitch. And a fly ball. Deep left. Ozuna back scales the wall. And drops.
You're not going to catch the ball anyway.
And that will be a ground rule double.
So here's the question.
I just want to bring that one back.
Has he hurt himself or is he face down because he's so embarrassed?
He's face down because he's like, yeah, he's embarrassed. He's definitely embarrassed.
So Ron,
because what you really don't know there is he's really not wearing a hat. His face is just that red.
There you go. So Ron, what is it? A 5-game, 6-game winning? About to be a 7-game winning streak?
6-game winning streak.
Are you buying this or what? I mean, it was the Cardinals and the Marlins.
Right. Tonight would make it 6 in a row. It'd bring them, gosh, I think, am I reading this right? Within a half game of the Cubs.
I thought they were a half game at the start of the night.
No, the Cubs were 8 back. Cardinals were 10.5.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Am I buying this? That's your question.
Yes.
In this division, I can. I think it was really hard to see that team playing that poorly, finding ways to lose, like literally 2 out of every 3 days. You had to think that luck would change a little bit, maybe lineup would settle in. You'd have to think starting pitching, no matter who they threw out there, couldn't possibly be this horrible, where reaching the 4th inning feels like a Herculean effort. But am I buying that, hey, they're going to be back in this race? I don't think so, man. I got to see them get. They're still so far back under 500. just think they're going to run out of time. By the time they get their shit together, I think they're just going to be out of. They're going to be out of games, basically. So, no, not buying it.
So you're expecting them to definitely sell?
Yeah, I think so. Now, sell to the extent of, hey, I'm going to go. We're going through a full blown rebuild now. I think I said this last week. The big names aren't going to go. Anybody
unless they get a ridiculous offer, right?
Yeah, I think they'd have to be. Yeah. If they got, I think they'd listen in on just about anything right now. If they're going to get overwhelmed with something, that would change things. But I don't know that that's going to occur. I think anybody who they anticipate not bringing back next year, some perhaps even not by choice, I think those guys are all going to be gone. I think the 2 pitchers I talked about, 3 if you include Jordan Hicks, I think they're gone. I think they're shoving Tyler O'Neill back in there every day, hoping over this next 7 to 8 days he rips the cover off the ball so they can get anything for him. DeYoung, fortunately for him, Edman is out. I heard you say his name earlier, but he's out right now. I think he's dealing with an injury. So I think they're hoping DeYoung shows something too, because he could be another candidate I wasn't thinking of last week when we were talking about this. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of guys go. Who they get's really kind of what I'm wondering about. Like, who are they possibly going to bring in that would be ready for next year? It'd have to be somebody in a really promising young guy in AA or a AAA guy that just doesn't have room. But who are those teams, and are those teams willing to deal? Do they need what the Cardinals have to offer right now? If a AAA guy who they believe is going to contribute, who's going to be with the club right now, they can't call him up, that means they've got an excess of pitching. If they've got an excess of pitching, they're going to be dealing for the Cardinal starters, probably, right? Not for 2 months if they already have pitching. So I'm just really wondering who they're going to go after. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of names that we're not too familiar with. Maybe we've heard of them, but we don't know a whole lot about them. Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of changes. I think so.
What do you reckon we're going to bring in, Elliot? I mean, what do you think that we're going to be able to get in trade? Are we going to be able to get anything in trade? Either you're muted or
I didn't mute
you
him.
Just haven't formulated all of your thoughts yet.
There's a bunch of talking going on in the back.
Gotcha.
I don't think they're going to bring anything that's going to address any immediate needs. That's what their immediate needs aren't going to be addressed until the offseason. I mean, that's kind of clear as day right now, unless somebody is brought up out of some of these guys that we've been talking about earlier, and they show us what they got and they prove it, and that they can actually play at the major league level and play well and be better than the replacement level person that they are replacing. I think anything that they trade for is going to be a couple years away, unfortunately. And when I say a couple years, it's probably like 3 to 4. It's going to be young guys that they are probably eyeing that we won't see for 3 to 4 years.
Really? You think so? You think they're going to trade for more lottery tickets?
Yes.
Oh God, I think that would be a huge mistake.
No, and I totally agree with that. But my gut feeling is that's where they're at, and they'll do that, and then in the off season, go after some people to, if nobody in the minors proves that they can come up and be that productive player for the needs that we have now, then I think they're gonna make some acquisitions in the offseason. I think they're gonna wait, which I think is dumb. Because there is such a logjam, we have pieces where we could make some decent trades, and I think they can make some decent trades this season. Even if it doesn't pay off for this season, it'll pay off for next season.
I absolutely agree with you. I don't think they're making any trades to improve this year's team.
No.
But if they aren't making trades to improve next year's team, then they're making a huge mistake.
I'd say the same thing about my club.
Yeah.
If the timeline is anything beyond somebody who is going to if not be in the starting lineup next year, then be called up at some point next year, then you have failed at the deadline.
What I would see being a successful trade season for them now would be to get guys that address the needs that they have now and go get the team good enough to make it just short of the playoffs this year.
Good Lord.
Because then you've got something for next season. You make some off-season acquisitions, you address the bullpen, and then you're going to make that team better, that you can make the playoffs or win the division.
That reminds me, Ron, the conversation that we had last week. There was an interview with Carter Hawkins in the last week where he said at one point he talked about their approach to the season and to the trade deadline. And basically said, look, if our calculations don't show that we can make some noise in the World Series, not just get to the playoffs, then we're not satisfied. And we're not going to push to make the playoffs. We're only going to push to make the playoffs if our analysis shows us that if we make it into the playoffs, that we're actually going to be a threat to win the championship.
I think that's dumb. I think that's short-sighted.
Well, that's what the Cardinals have been doing for how many years, Ron? Content just to make the playoffs, because then you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and fortunately and unfortunately, they've had a couple teams that were, I guess they did win the division in 2006 with 83 games, right? 83 wins. Really point to 2011 when they captured that last wild card, very last day, got in, got hot, got healthy, and won it all. So they've seen it happen before, and they've seen it happen to a couple of other clubs before that got in and got hot. And so, yeah, Pete, their standard has dropped. It went from every year talking about winning the division to getting to the playoffs. You heard that rhetoric change. It was always about the division. Then it was about making the playoffs, right? So that bar has been lowered, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's any going back to it anytime soon. So it sucks.
And honestly, Elliot, I'm going to respectfully and yet strenuously disagree with you. It doesn't feel good to see the Cubs run back the same team every year because, hey, this team made the playoffs. We need to just make little tweaks. The goal is to win the whole goddamn thing. And I got spoiled by 2016, and I want to see us win the whole thing again and again and again. I don't want to see us make the playoffs and then flame out in the first or second round because, well, we made the playoffs. Well, that's not good enough.
That's a success.
And we stuck around with a core that the rest of baseball had passed by and didn't adjust because, well, we made the playoffs and we won the World Series with this team a couple of years ago. So we're just going to keep running them out there.
Look how well that's worked for St. Louis.
Yeah.
And speaking of St. Louis, how about that city soccer club, right? Like finished first half of the year. They are in first place in the Western Conference. They got Edward Leuven returned to the lineup last week. They got him some playing time. He got a penalty kick goal in the last game. João Klaus's return is right around the corner. Those are their two best players. They went about 5 weeks without either of them and treaded water. This is an impressive club, man. Like for an expansion, nobody refers to them as expansion anymore, man. They are top dog in the Western Conference. They're kicking some ass.
Okay, well, since we've moved into the Obscure Sports Quarterly segment of tonight's episode, how about that Jonas Vingegaard run the last 2 days in the Tour de France, man? First, he went from a 10-second lead, put a minute 38 into his top rival, Tadej Pogačar, in the time trial when everybody expected that Tadej would probably pick up some time on him, and then Tadej cracked on the last climb up the Col de la Luz in what was it, stage 17 on Tuesday. And now Jonas has an insurmountable 7-minute, 35-second lead, going to win his second yellow jersey in a row. Elliot, your turn. What would you like to talk about that nobody else cares about?
So the new Battle Pass on Diablo 4 is absolutely freaking terrible. They nerfed almost every single class except for the Necromancer, which is great because I'm a Necromancer. So
what's a Necromancer?
I would love to see tomorrow at the live stream that they're going to make changes to the Battle Pass so that it's not nerfing all of the classes.
Magic of the Dead, Ron.
Yes, that's right. Braden is on the line. Braden, do you have the Diablo 4? Did we get you that? Is that something you have, and have you gone on any raids lately?
No, I don't.
That's a video game thing,
No,
right?
I'm not Francis. I'm not
Okay.
into that.
Okay.
That kind of jazz.
All right, we're already done talking about.
No. That's World of Warcraft. Don't you bring that mojo on me, there, Braden.
Are you a guild leader, Elliot?
No.
Okay.
I am a peon. That
I know
gets
just
carried.
enough terminology. Is this game? Do you collect jewels or shit like that?
Yes.
You do. So it's like a wizard game.
There are sorcerers.
It's wizards.
Correct.
It's wizards.
And necromancers.
And necromancers.
Okay.
And druids and barbarians.
Braden, we're done. We're done talking about baseball. Where we left off, where I'm at. Are the Cardinals going to start winning now and be able to do just enough? Sort of Mo doesn't have to do anything. That's the concern amongst Cardinals fans, especially on Twitter, where they're always anxiety levels are always high anyway. I think that Mo will stick to his guns, and I think the guys they don't think are going to come back next year and leave via free agency or test the market, I think those guys are gone in 10 days. Your quick opinion on this, and I do mean quick.
So I really hope that's the case, but like my fear is that Mosaic is a man who doesn't like to show his cards, so it's kind of strange.
Doesn't have any cards.
That he did show his cards and say like, oh, I'm gonna sell.
Maybe he's deking everybody.
And so I'm kind of just like I'm really hoping that he is, but it's such a Cardinal thing that they're starting to win games right before the trade deadline, and so it's like, oh, of course this is happening because how many times have we seen the Cardinals?
We're gonna be trading players. Just kidding. We're good enough again, right? We're good enough to just get in. Pete's favorite thing.
Win streak just to lose in the first round of the playoffs. So
yeah, I know. Well, we've hit all those beats, Braden. We're with you. Like nobody wants to see a team year over year run the same group out there, refuse to make corrections or fix things that's obvious to the rest of the world, i.e. Cardinals pitching staff over the last 3 years, to see them just continually not do it and think that their own model is going to prevail at the end of the day. And because you have birds on the bat on your chest, God damn it, and we have Stan Musial's ghost hanging over Busch Stadium and Red Shane Dienst and the recently passed Lou Brock and Bob Gibson. We are fucking Cardinals, and something's going to happen. We're going to take this. Our model will work.
Well, the thing is, our model did work, but then we traded everybody that the model did work on, so that's unfortunate.
I think they forgot about their model for a few years there, basically after 2019. That was a terrible winner. Winner all remember.
Our model's starting to become outdated because a lot of these teams are just
they've fallen behind. They failed to adapt. They fell behind. They got passed by everybody else as far as analytics, how to use them, how to rate talent, how to know what you have, and the Cardinals just don't know what they have. And because they've made a couple bad deals in 2019, so like historically bad deals, I think they're a little snake bit. And look how well they spend money too. So I don't know. We'll see. Then this is new territory for Mo. He already stuck his neck out there and said he was going to do it. Let's just hope he does it with Pete. I would take 50% intelligence on this one.
Ron, let me ask you something, because you and Braden going back and forth there, it made me think of something, and we may have talked about this in the past. Do you think that the Cubs winning in 2016 maybe broke the Cardinals' brains a little bit and put them in a little bit into panic mode?
No, I think in some ways that did, Pete. And I think it started earlier than that. I think it started in 2015, getting knocked out of the playoffs. But I think even going back into that year, that tiff between Joe Madden and Mike Matheny was some game where they were throwing at each other, and I think their cage got rattled a little bit even then. And they have overreacted in a lot of cases and made moves they probably shouldn't have. That they wish now they wouldn't have. I do. I think having fierce competition and all of a sudden, your organization that was up until 2014 probably thought of as one of the top organizations as far as developing from within, not having to overspend, always being on top, to now you look vulnerable, you look a little weak. There's not a lot of excitement in that clubhouse, and at least what we can see on camera, not a lot of excitement in the dugout. You got that stoic manager, that leader of men, Mike Matheny over there, scaring away every rookie that got near the dugout. So, I mean, I think the Cubs had something to do with it. I think they were on that downward trajectory anyway, but I think the Cubs exposed it. I think their success in those years exposed a lot of the Cardinals' faults. Did you want to hear that? Okay. Did you want to hear that? You can't really add anything to it. You're like, God damn, he just buried.
That was good.
He just buried him. So it's, I don't know. You know what? In a boring year, this next 10 days at least is going to be interesting. Hopefully.
So Ron, your mission, should you choose to accept it, by the way, go see that excellent movie.
Yeah.
See it in the theaters.
I got to see the other ones. I've only seen the first one.
This one's really good.
Yeah.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to intercut that monologue with Mo's lies and just put the two of them together, right? Mo saying something and then you responding. I think that could be the next viral hit.
Okay.
Just saying.
All right. I probably won't do it.
When you've got, I know, but
Okay. All right, boys. Pete, lead us out of here.
Well, I want to, Elliot, you have anything you want to monologue on? The floor is yours.
If you're going to monologue, Elliot, I want the camera to point at the wall again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Right there.
All right.
So
fire away.
But no.
I wish Braden could see this. He can't see it.
No, I mean, I actually think I got a lot of kind of how I feel about this season this year. I mean, it's been a frustrating season. And I had a thought the other day, and I don't know where it came from, but I think right now that the Cubs are having a little bit of buyer's remorse, and I haven't seen anybody kind of see anything, but I kind of have a little buyer's remorse on Dansby Swanson. I know he's been hurt and he hasn't played a lot, but from everything that I've seen, he's a great defensive shortstop, but his offense really hasn't been something that has been desirable. And maybe it's just because it's a new team and he's not in Georgia, and it's been a big move and big transition, and he's had a lot of changes in his life the last year. But I have a little buyer's remorse on our shortstop right now. So just that's kind of where my mind is right now, besides what I've kind of went into earlier. So
excellent. You guys want to know the final score?
Yeah, I know what the final score is.
All right. They haven't updated the standings yet, but the Brewers did win too. And you know what? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. No. If you enjoyed this episode, and if you'd like Elliot to straighten out those pictures on the wall behind him, don't forget to comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, although not Stitcher in the month of August, because apparently Stitcher's going away. So yet another successful launch. No. You can also catch us on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show. That's a winter podcast, Talking Sports in the Bleachers with Don Glenn, 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels. And I don't know about the rest. I don't know. I still haven't fixed this. Anyway, you can find Elliot on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
And you can find her on at
TR_Ron75.
Get in touch with us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com or on any social media channel. Well, not anyone. We're not on Threads. I don't know if we should do that.
We should do Threads.
Let's talk about that.
Let's do Threads.
Nobody's on Threads. It launched big because everybody's got Instagram, and their usage has dropped off to like average engagement is 6 minutes a day. Nobody's on Threads. Well, sorry. Nobody's using Threads. Anyway.
You set us up on Truth, right?
Get her.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know why I was thinking the other day. I'm like, I think Pete might have set up.
Why would I put us on Truth?
I don't know. I don't know why I was thinking that. Braden, you're on Twitter too. Where can they find you? Isn't it just like at Braden? You got creative with that name.
Honestly, I top my head. I don't even really remember my Twitter handle.
Okay. Fair enough.
But my profile picture is a picture of Peter Griffin face palming with a Cardinals hat.
Okay, that's a good one.
That describes my feelings.
Okay.
I've thought about starting to tweet and joining Cardinals Twitter, but then every time I see
Ooh, I don't know. You might want to
I
hold
don't-
off.
I don't want to be a part of that brainless group.
No,
So
it is. Yeah.
I just kind of like retweet, laugh, and make fun of stupidity. So you can find my Twitter, but like it's not going to do you any good.
That is.
Braden, you give me hope for the youth, man.
He should, and he's 1 month, right? He's moving out. He's going to U of I, Springfield, so he's got a month left at home, and he's gonna.
Nice. I'm counting down.
He's counting down. All right, don't tell your mom that.
I got my nephew's going to Iowa, so.
Rival.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Yeah. All right, boys.
All right.
Pete, thanks for leading us out, and we love y'all so much. We'll talk to you again here real soon. Wrong outro music incoming. Bye-bye, everyone.